Okay, so in this video we're going to take a look at developing our 2D drafting views, and we're going to take a look at using detail lines and model lines. We'll take a look at how to develop these 2D drafting views and then use those drafting views to create 2D grouped detail lines. We'll take a look at how to use these in the floor plan view, how to ungroup them and convert them to model lines, and then regroup them. Again, the difference between the detail lines and the model lines is the detail lines can only be viewed in 2D views, while model lines can be viewed in both 2D and 3D views. And also, by grouping these objects, we'll be able to simply create them once and reuse them in other projects. So the last thing we'll take a look at is how we can share this content. For this exercise, what I'll be doing is taking a look at two very simple 2D architectural objects, for example, a tub and a sink. So first, let's take a look at how we're going to develop our drafting views. I'm going to draw your attention over here to the project browser, and you can see by default we have our floor plan, ceiling plans, and other views that we can navigate with the browser. If you take a look at the View tab, you're going to be using the drafting views to create our first view. Now here you can actually set the scale for the view, and some of the purposes that we can use the drafting views for is not only to isolate our 2D architectural objects, but also to create detailed views that we might want to use as detailed drawings in our sheets. Okay, so that's why we can set the scale for the drawing view. I'm just going to use the 1/4 inch, which is the same scale that we're using for our floor plan view. And the first thing I'll do here is I'll call this tub. Okay, click OK, and now you'll see in the browser that we now have drafting views, and we have the tub drafting view highlighted. What you'll see is this is an endless canvas, right? It's like one of the model views, but it is in fact just a 2D drafting view. So what we could do is we can just draw anywhere in this view, and if we go to annotate, this is where we can start with some detail lines. All right, and again, as you can see, we can use these lines just to create some simple 2D architectural objects with detail lines. They will only be visible in the 2D drafting view. Later, I'll show you how we can reuse these detail lines to create model lines and group those objects as well to be viewed in both 2D and 3D. So let's start with the tub. I'm just going to create using detail line here. Once we start that command, you can see now we have the Place Detail Lines tab and related commands. If you look at the far right, we've got our Draw panel here, and to the right of that you'll see Line Styles. Now it starts off with medium lines, and we could use any number of line weights here and also line types. I'm just going to start out with medium lines, and I'll start out with a rectangle, and we'll create a 2'8" by 5' tub here. And you'll notice, just like when you're doing modeling, when you select the line work here, you'll see the temporary dimensions. So we can just select the temporary dimensions and insert our measurements to create the outline here of a 2'8" by 5' bathtub, right? And so now we'll do the inside. We've got a 4" offset here. Okay, and again, if I select the line work, you can see how you can use the modified tools. Here's offset. Down below in the design options, we can offset 4 inches. And what you'll see here is we can select each edge and offset it by 4 inches there. Now, we'll also be able to use our other drafting tools to create intersections. As you can see there. And then we have just a radius connection here. So let's go back, let's deselect, and let's continue drafting here. I'm not going to be able to draw an arc there until I go back to annotate and go back to detail lines. Now you can see I can do my little tangent arc there. Okay, so let's just start somewhere here, start in a corner, make our tangent arc. There we go. Not going to worry about that, and we could just trim it up again. Okay, so once it's a drafting view like this, it's just individual lines. And how can we use it in the floor plan? Well, here's what I would suggest to you. If I wanted to use this in the floor plan, what I would do is select all the line work and then use the Create panel here to make a group. Right now you can see I have no groups, but I have my isolated drafting view. Basically, I'll be able to use the drafting view to create the entire collection of 2D objects and use it to manage those 2D objects and update my various groups. So for example, I'll take all the line work and use Create Group, give it the same name, and if you have a variety of tubs, you might want to use the dimensions of the tubs to distinguish the different drafting views or groups. So now as a group, it's actually a single object, right? And you can see here under your browser in your groups, you have Detail Group Tub. So if I go back to the floor plan, okay, what I'll be able to do is simply select, drag, and drop it right into my floor plan. Now the advantage of this is that they're not individual lines, right? They are group lines, and now what I could do is this. If I select the object, I can easily rotate it in place. Right? And position it. So if I needed to resize it, for example, I can always go back and edit the group. You can see here, if I select it and I use Edit Group, I can edit it in context. So I can stretch it and resize it if I needed to. So for example, let's see if we could just do that real quick here. I can select those lines and adjust it. I can also select the edges like so and use the dimensioning there to do it numerically. And then when I finish and then position it with no problem, right? If you look back at the drafting view, you can see it even updated here. Okay? But this is great insofar as I'm only looking at this as a 2D view, right? Sometimes if you're starting to take a look at the floor plan in 3D, right, you want to get an idea of your layout with respect to the model. And if it's just detail lines, you won't be able to see it in the 3D view. So again, coming back here to the floor plan and taking a look, we've got just the tub here as the detail view, which we made into a group and we're able to use it into the floor plan. But let's say I wanted to see this as a model line in the 3D views. What you could do is this. You could either take the group, reinsert it, just place it into the model, select it, and then ungroup it. Now it's the same model lines as the drafting view and the detail group, but the difference now is going to be this. If I reselect all the lines, what I want to do now is convert those lines to model lines. This will make it visible in 2D and in 3D. When I do that, you should see and confirm that all the line work has been created to model lines. If everything was successful there, then what you could do is reselect all the line work and then group it one more time. And you can see here, you don't see it expanded because my window's kind of shortened, kind of collapsed, but you see under the Create panel to make it a group again. And take a look at the browser now. I'll reuse the same name just to keep it consistent. And now you'll be able to see I have an additional model group. Now, it looks just like the other detail lines, but you'll notice as I hover over it, that's indicated as a model group. whereas this is still a detail group. And the big difference is this, is when I look at it in 3D, I can actually see the model group in the 3D window. Okay? So basically, what I would recommend is, depending on your project type, okay, I would go ahead and use View, create a drafting view for each 2D architectural object. Once you have a drafting view of your architectural object, you can actually select all the line work and make it into a group. That will allow you to then use that group as a single object in your model, right, in your 2D or elevation view, and be able to easily manipulate it as a single object and not just a collection of lines. But if you wanted to be able to see the lines as flat 2D lines, you'd have to convert it into model lines. And again, what you would do is you could ungroup, you could reselect, and what you would be doing is converting the lines to model lines and then regrouping so you have a model group of the exact same thing. Okay? And then that way it'll be visible in more views. You could develop 2 or 200 objects the same way and save it all in one file. Now the key to being effective and efficient with this is to be able to reuse your objects in other projects, right? So for example, if I just save this right now and then create a separate new project, now I want to go through and show you how you can reuse this content in other projects.